obviously you build fairly high-end,
Yep.
you know, basses.
Yes.
But somebody, you know, starting out, beginner,
Yep.
maybe they don't know if they want to play bass for a long time.
Yes.
Is there any advice or recommendations you would give for what to look for in a beginning instrument? Maybe
Well,
for a young player or somebody who's starting
Yeah,
out?
keeping it simple.
Yep.
Keeping it simple and going back to the origins of the species, so to speak, you know, your P's and your jazz basses and all that, you know, all that sort of stuff is a really good start for any
Tried and
young
tested.
player. It is try and test it, and I get it. You know, we talked before about the allure of those classic types of basses, and they are fun. They make you play a certain way, and they are the things that we've heard on all the records for literally half a century and so forth.
Exactly, yeah.
And you know, they're a great thing to start with. They're often not the easiest thing to play, because you often pick up more exotic things and go, wow, the action's really low, and it's kind of, you can zing around and the fretboard a lot and all that sort of stuff.
A big P bass can be a formidable neck.
It can be.
But at that point in your playing, you're doing big brush strokes.
Yeah.
You know, more than detail, and a P bass and stuff is great for that.
Yeah.
You know,
with the beginning things, and this is being the age I am now, I sort of saw the some of the stuff that Ibanez were doing in the 70s, and mentioned before, I've got an old Ibanez 6-string guitar, Ibanez musician, and great instrument. That was sort of when they were really picking up their game and going forward in a big way with that type of thing. But the quality of a lot of basses and import basses, things from Asia and so forth, back in that time was pretty hit and miss. There was some, and even earlier stuff was, you know, I've had friends that would present you with things and you just go, wow, you can't even play it, you know, it's just horrid things. But now we're living in a time where what is, you know, with modern construction, say if you go to the Fender type construction, bolt-on type of thing, making a body separate from a neck, all these things are cut and produced on CNC machines, so it's computer generated sort of thing. Okay, you can use different timbers that have different qualities and so forth, but whether a body's machined in China or Korea or America or Germany or Australia, it's machined, you know. And if it's the same materials that they're using, so the quality. What I'm trying to get to here, I guess, is the quality control and the ability to lay your hands on really great, fine instruments from quite a low budget point is astonishing, you know. And you've got a bass here that you use for students they can pick up and they can use straight away, and it's a budget bass, and you pick it up and go, wow, this is actually pretty good.
it works, yeah.
It's really
and you kind of hope that after 60 years of production and refining that we would be at that point where we could put together a good, solid, playable instrument for a reasonable price. You know?
Absolutely. You can, of course, with budget, you know, priced instruments and so forth, if you've got a good one, and not all basses, not all instruments are great. You can pick up you can have a row of the same sort of thing and pick one up and it's dead, and the next one's nothing there, and all of a sudden, wow, this thing works. What the hell, isn't it?
Because ultimately it's wood.
Yes, and they're all
living,
it's a living, breathing,
organic
thing. And but you can actually do things with it. You can put better pickups in it, and you can actually bring a budget thing up to play. And if you do the frets really nice and stuff, you can get them to work really well, embarrassingly well.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you look at these things and go, gee, that's for the dollar per value.
There should be another zero in there.
And so that's. So they're kind of lucky now. Young ones. With all
I would definitely recommend, if you're looking to buy your first bass, go to a store. You know, there's a very good store in Melbourne called the Bass Centre, and they'll help you out. Get a rack of 3 or 4 basses, maybe all the same kind of. If you're looking for a P bass, get 3 or 4 P basses. Pick them up before you even plug them in. Pick it up and play
them acoustically.
Play them acoustically. Your ear might not be that accustomed yet, but you might find that one just fits better on your lap. It's maybe slightly better balanced because the necks and the bodies will all weigh slightly different things. So for your body, when you pick it up and play it, of those 3 or 4, there might be one that go, okay, starting point, this one. Plug it in and see how it sounds from there. But definitely A-Bing, you have to A-B any kind of gear that you're buying. You know, we've got a rack of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got about 10 basses in here today. And some of them are the same model, but they sound and feel and play
very different.
differently, you know. So even with the same the same model of bass, you gotta compare it.
I have bought instruments without playing them, electric instruments, and it's just magic straight away, just acoustically. And
you got lucky.
Well, the thing is, you pick them up and they sound and they play really nicely, and you'll have a salesperson say, "Would you like to plug that in?" And I'm like, "No, man, I want to buy this thing. This is great." And they're like, "But you haven't heard it yet." And I'm like, "I can fix that problem. You can't fix an instrument that's not."
Yeah,
you can improve it a bit, but it's not. If it doesn't have that thing about it, it's they're often the ones that.
Which takes us back to their very first question: the impact of wood on tone. There you go.
Yeah, it can be a bit like that, but then horses for courses, different tone. If you want to be a slapping player, you want to get yourself into a crisper sort of sounding stuff like ash or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, these are all great bases that were around here, but ultimately, everybody's hands and bodies are different, and everybody plays different music, and everybody has a slightly different idea of what they want a bass or their bass to sound like.
Yes.
And I've been there. It's dangerous to look at another player and go, he's playing that bass, so I should get that bass. Then I'll sound like that guy or play like that guy.
There it is. It's in those things.
It's in these things like I had Yannick here recently, and I played his bass. It didn't sound like
you
Yannick.
sounded like you, didn't you?
Yeah, he played my bass and sounded like Yannick.
Yeah.
It's once you get to a certain level, it's all about refinement and the minor details. Oh, this is I just realised asymmetrical.
It is. I do asymmetrical calves.
Cool.
So like, a little bit finer. Yeah, a little bit finer on the top up here, a little bit more on the back there. Yes,
nice.
Absolutely. That's the little details.
Exactly, little details that when you're starting out, not so big a deal, but when you know you're playing, it makes a difference. One thing we didn't get to, which I know you do want to talk about, is scale length.
Yeah.
People, 36-inch scale, 33-inch scale.
Oh, this is another. This is we were saying before about the active passive thing. People are very, and this might be a little bit controversial. This type of thing. People want to almost box themselves into playing a certain scale length because they think their hands are a certain size and it's too small or whatever. Or their hands are too small. I can only play short scale. That's just not the case at all. It's a perception that they've talk themselves into, I think. Think about a double bass player.
Exactly.
The scale length on those things is so grand. Small people get around those things brilliantly, and it's just a case of actually rejigging your own, the way that you actually... Your muscle memory works and so forth. I know when I go from a longer scale to a shorter scale, like a 34-inch, short scale, 34-inch type of instrument, it takes a little while to rejig yourself, and it can be a couple of days before you feel really comfortable on that, and you can go back to the other thing, go, gee, that's long, and so you have this realignment going on there.
I mean, ultimately, we're really only maybe talking about 34 to 36, and 36 is reserved for 6. It's
pretty, 6 strings. Yeah.
So your 4 to 5 strings are going to be 33 to 35.
Yeah.
It does make a difference, but it's not going like Fender Bullet Bass, which is like 30 or 31, which maybe if you're 12 years old or 10 and you're starting out, then your hands are
small,
tiny.
Yes,
that's fair enough.
True.
But if you're adult size, although one thing I've noticed is, what was the video I was watching? It was Paul Gilbert, the guitar player.
Yes.
His hands, his fingers they're
like spiders,
huge.
Really long. Yeah.
Jacko, huge. Larry Graham, huge.
Yes.
So maybe there is a correlation.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, well, there could be a bit of that sort of stuff in there.
It's a physical instrument, but
it is. It is a physical way.
I think if what you're saying is if it's built ergonomically, you can play any scale length.
Yeah. You should be able to, and you do get used to a lot of these types of things. I played recently a 32-inch scale. It was actually a 5-string, but it was E to C. Okay. And it was beautiful to get around. Right. So I will actually probably do some production stuff a little bit later that will be 32, and that'll be my short scale.
Okay.
That's as short as I'll go. Yeah. Because I do love the definition, and a lot of my ideas about the scale length is about what goes on with the B string and trying to get enough length into it that has that big grand sort of piano-ish sort of sound as you're getting that sort of thing happening. So
it's definitely there.
Yeah, and it's there. And you can, on some instruments, some 34-inch scales, you can get a bit of that sort of stuff out of it, but it's really easy. As soon as you go to 35 or above 34, it's just there. And 36 is even more pronounced than that. It's ridiculously piano-like.
Yeah.
But I think once you're back to a 4-string type of situation where you've got an E on the bottom, you don't really need to go to 35. It's overkill.
Okay.
You 34, 32 to 34, fantastic. You don't lose. Even at 32, you're really not losing the definition on the E string. It's still there. You're not going into mud territory. So
I'm sure I saw for sale in either a forum or somewhere, and it was a short scale. It was a 32-inch Fender Jazz. Fender actually made a run of short scale Jazzes that were like 32.
32s, yes.
And I was like, that could be a lot of fun.
Ooh, it could be, yeah, and it'd be really comfortable to play. I get all that sort of stuff. Funnily enough, people often pick up 35-inch scales and they play it and they love the sound of it, and even the grander 36-inch scale, and they don't realise what they're playing. They don't realise it's actually long until you go, you're playing a 30, and they go, oh no, I couldn't possibly play that, and they sort of back away from that sort of thing, and it's like, no, you can actually do that. So that's just one of my own funny little things, and I don't try to force that down people's necks or anything like that, because if a client wants a certain scale, well, I will build that certain scale. They're the person who's paying for it.
But also, I think it's important to whoever you're ordering a bass from, be it yourself or whatever luthier, is that you know what you're talking about.
Listening for that sound.
There's a lot of builders out there. I've noticed on the internet, a lot of builders in Asia, custom bass builders in Asia and in Europe, that will build whatever you want. They'd be like, here's. Do you want a Federa shape? Cool.
Here's
you want
your
these
menu,
pickups?
yeah.
Here's your menu, and you basically tell them what you want.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily going to work, because a lot of the time these things, because it looks good or you've heard about it. There's definitely certain. I think this is kind of the thread through our whole conversation, is that there are certain things that work together for certain outputs.
It's an interesting concept, because who would actually design a P bass now in this day and age? No one would. It was designed back then, when was it, early 50s or something like that.
Who would want one pickup?
One pickup, and it's sort of somewhere up the front there, and it's got a big round neck and all that sort of stuff.
That's true.
In the contemporary sort of sense of things, people would look at it and go, what is that? And yet it works. It works really well. So I get it.
Does it work because it's what we've known?
Oh, you know what it's like. You plug them in and they sound like a freight train sometimes. They are good. Because a lot of our students build that particular derivative of type of instruments as well. And that they...
Have you had any experience with PJ setups? I've got a friend who's just kind of gone that way, and I've had a couple, and I've never really got on with the sound of the jazz pickup and the P pickup.
Don't find they blend at all? No.
Some kind of phase thing going on, I'm not sure what it is. I'm usually either one or the other, in which case I'd be like, well, I'd rather just have... I'm not really much of a back pickup jazz guy anyway.
Okay, yeah.
So if I'm playing a jazz bass, it's normally 2 pickups up full.
Yes. Yeah, no, when I usually build, I try to, because I'm often having to build, fancy covers, or I'm building with pickups that are matched from the same maker and so forth, and I don't tend to use classic jazz and P-bass types of pickups anyway, because I do want that it's almost a boutique look when you're actually using soap bar types of things. I've almost strayed away from say a jazz bass pickup that has the lobes on the sides and all that sort of stuff, though I have thought about pulling the gizzards out of one, the guts out of one, and then putting it into, because they're great sounding pickup, like that one there, offset. You could actually, you could do all that sort of stuff. You could slant things and so forth. But I suppose that's a visual thing that I'm dealing with as a designer and so forth. So I've not really come across, and generally we don't have in classes. We don't have people who want that sort of thing. They're either a P-bass person or they're a jazz bass person, and so it's not something. So that would It kind of makes sense that because they are quite different beasts, and whether they do want to. Marry up and play nicely. That's.
And do you want to talk a little bit more about your guitar building courses?
Absolutely. We've just on that sort of note, we've when I say we, myself and Robert Pryke, my business partner, we've just taken possession of a factory over in Croydon in eastern Melbourne there, and we have been running our guitar and bass making courses, electric instruments, out of NMIT, then Melbourne Poly. And around about 12 months ago, we sort of said, we want to do this by ourselves. We'd done about 4 years at the TAFE there, and we wanted to take it under our own steam and our own control. So we've taken a lease out on a factory, and we'll be putting our courses on there. So we've had lots of people through Ausbase Forum that have already come and built with us and so forth, and I love that side of things. It's not just a case of building beautiful exotic instruments. I really enjoy that thing that you have when you get people in and you teach them how to do this. And I always, in my opening shtick with people on the opening night when we go through this type of thing, I always tell them this won't be your last instrument. Right. You'll get it. You'll get hooked, and they all do. They love it. They really do love that type of thing. So there's this camaraderie that we build up with the students and so forth. We've had all sorts from really young to quite elderly people come through. We have women come through.
And how long is a course?
Generally, it takes, for a bolt-on neck type instrument, generally it takes people around about sort of probably, I would say, about 70 hours to get through. So and we do it. We have our courses broken up into like 4-hour blocks and so forth. So we have evening courses, and we'll have weekend ones as well. So people will be able to come and go as they please and build over a period of time.
So 6 months to a year? Or?
Yeah, most people were building it over 6 months. So people that come at night time would be with us, for 6 months, one night a week sort of thing. And they really they click as a group. You'll often find them going out and seeing bands together, and they really develop friendships. We often have to shoo them out at the end of the night, saying you've got homes to go to. You need to go home. So it's a bit like Men's Shed. There's this thing where people come there, they build instruments, they learn how to do the whole thing. So they're not building kits. They're literally starting from sticks of timber all the way through to the finished object with all the fretwork and all that sort of stuff. So they do the whole thing, but there's the camaraderie side of things that is built into it. Just sort of naturally happens. Cool. It's not a high pressure environment or anything like that. It's quite a nurturing sort of thing that we go through, and it's great.
And if people are interested in how would they get in touch with you about booking a place? Or
so they can contact me through djsguitars.optusnet.com. Optusnet. And we have actually this morning I was signing up all the domain names and so forth, but you will actually find us on the internet very soon under Melbourne School of Guitar Making.
Oh, cool.
So all that came through this morning. Business name, all registered. All that
and it's not just basses, it's guitars.
Your guitars.
Acoustic guitars.
Well, not as yet. No, we might move into that side of things, and I do have plans for semi-acoustic basses and guitars as well. So for the people who have done a few instruments, they can go into something a little bit more challenging.
Is it predominantly basses you have?
Of late, it's been mainly basses. Yeah. So if we have a group of say 12 people coming through, there'll be 2 teachers, and in the last group there were 8 basses and only 4 guitars, when it was generally the other way around, and that could possibly be with my interaction with the Ausbase Forum and getting people revved up in that side of things and getting things going there.
Awesome.
But it's a hell of a thing to do. You'll drive your partners crazy because you'll end up wanting to fill the shed with woodworking machinery, and actually the way that we actually go about doing our classes and so forth is it is replicatable in your own garage or your own workshop. Yeah, really? So we're not using machinery that is you must buy a $200,000 CNC machine or something crazy like that. It's all handmade, as are these things here. It's all about bandsaws and routers and neck carving and learning how to do all those sorts of things by hand. So they eventually people do wean off us. They get self-sufficient and they can do that and might come back and need something painted. We paint in nitrocellulose paint, so you need a certain environment like spray booth and so forth to do all that sort of thing in. Cool. But they have a great time. They really do.
I'm sure. Well, if these are anything to go by, it's well worth checking out. David, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been good fun.
I hope you've enjoyed it, maybe learned something and maybe disagreed with us on some things, but hey, it's all good. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again.
Cheers.